When do you quit your W-2 job and go full-time into real estate investing? In this episode, I interview Jess White and he breaks down everything he thought about. You don't want to miss this. For anyone who is on Zoom or on Instagram, today we're going to be chatting with Jess. So Jess White is my buddy who I met through real estate investing, and he is making the bold and awesome decision to go full-time into real estate investing. So today I'm going to pick his brains about the thought process and everything that he's kind of done to this point to make that decision. So if you have questions, you can put it in the chat below. If you're on Zoom as well, you can put it in the Zoom questions, or I will try and just kind of bounce through a million different sources. I also got DM'd some beforehand, so I got some for you.
You got them, man.
But real quick, welcome, Jess, and thanks. This is actually quick for everyone who's watching. Just tell us a little bit more about you, where you're from, and the background in terms of your W-2 and real estate investing.
Yeah, so born and raised in Texas, but I've been out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, specifically San Jose, for the past 5 years. Got started real estate investing back in 2017, 2018, and just got completely obsessed with financial independence and like really wanted to reach that early retirement age as quick as possible. So I'm 28 now, be 29 in October, and my whole goal was to hit financial independence by 30, and so I feel like I've gotten there, which has been awesome. But yeah, so the past 18 months I've been going back and forth from the Bay Area back to Texas twice a week. Half my family moved back to Texas, and so that's given me that much more reason to really push it even harder to reach financial independence sooner. So as of tomorrow, I am taking the leap and quitting my W-2 job and diving in the deep end and doing real estate full time, and I'm super excited about it. So
So that means you're going from a W-2 right now, which is what?
So I do contract work, work for PG&E. It's a gas company out here in California.
How long were you doing that for?
5 years.
Okay.
Out here.
And then when did you start real estate investing?
Really early 2018 is when I started.
Okay, so 2018, it is now that is, do my math, that's 3 years.
Yeah, it's closer to 4, really, is what it is for me.
Okay, and then what's the portfolio mix look like?
Yeah, so about half of my portfolio is with partners and the other half is on my own. So my main money makers that are really allowing me to quit my job, I have several new construction rentals, which are like super low capex, not very expensive to maintain, and they're really high cash flow. So those are kind of my bread and butter. I've got 3 new constructions that net me, like after expenses, like $2,000 a month.
Wow.
So that's my first little cushion. And then besides that, I've got an Airbnb that I'm able to pull about $1,000 a month from. I call it, it's not really passive income, right? But it's still, it's passive income, right? It's better than a job. So that brings us to $3,000. And then I have a partnership I created with 2 of my good friends out here in California, Dakota and Robert. Shout out to them. We created really a partnership when we bought around 10 rentals, and we do about $3,000 a month net after all expenses. So I'm able to take $1,000 from that.
Okay.
So that brings it to $4,000. And then I just closed on another rental, which brings me up to $4,500, a pure passive. And that's kind of my passive base level, is $45,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good for me, given I live in Texas and my new mortgage is less than $1,000 a month. I've got pretty much no debt besides real estate. And then I'm also doing new construction, build and sells. So that's kind of my cash overlay.
So you're doing basically new construction flips.
Yeah, it's really a flip. So for example, the numbers on the one I'm doing right now will probably net, after everything's said and done, about $60,000 on it.
Wow.
So
dude,
it's not really just about the passive income. The passive income is like, it's kind of the padding, right? It's that financial runway that really gives me the ability to say, okay, I want to do work optional, and I want to focus on my real estate business instead of on a job that I don't really care about.
Work?
It's not really
optional.
Exactly. It's not really a, $5,000 a month isn't like rich or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it's enough to sustain me, and it can only go up from there. So
Well, I think one, you need to run and buy the URL workoptional.com.
let's do it.
That seems like from a marketing play, that's like a wonderful marketing play. Those who are on Instagram, if you want to jump on Zoom, you can. You can, wave and ask questions and all that good stuff. We can leave them in the chat. Okay, so let me get this straight. So you have 4 rentals, kind of yourself between you and your wife, 1 being an Airbnb, and then 10-ish like in a partnership.
5 with my wife, and then
5.
partnership I think is around 6 or 7.
Okay, so then roughly about like 10, what is that, 12 units?
It's about $2.5 million between me and my wife, and then 500 with partners.
Nice, okay. Over the course of 3 years, which is amazing. And then you're just switching to a more active real estate income with almost, I would call that you're like a developer, right?
Yeah, I definitely feel imposter syndrome when someone says that, because I feel far from that.
But you've done a number of them already.
I've done 4, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Not to downplay myself, but it's also in Texas where it's like super easy to permit.
Yeah.
And like you just go to the courthouse and you give them the plans, and they hand you a permit, and you just like a flip. It's pretty easy.
It's a pro tip: move to Texas for development opportunities. Okay, but today we're talking about all things diving into quitting your W-2 set paycheck to then going full time into real estate investing, or being an active real estate professional, which I've also learned puts you into new tax terms too.
Exactly. That's my other reason.
Okay. But I guess, when did you realize that you wanted to pursue full-time real estate investing? Like, so initially you were investing for something. Like, what was that reason, and when did that kind of change?
Yeah. Initially, I really enjoyed my job for a couple of years, and then it got to where I wasn't really enjoying it. And then once my family moved back to Texas, we had our second child. My wife wanted to stay at home, and so she moved back, and I continued to work, and I went back and forth every week. And that's when it really lit the fire in me, and I was like, all right, I've got to work harder to really get that freedom. And if I want to be home with my family, I'm going to have to be doing this full time.
Yeah.
So that was really when I discovered that, probably 18 months ago.
Gotcha. So, and that's when your family moved 18 months ago. So you've kind of been doing the flight commuting for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Wait, man, that's
Twice a week.
Yeah, that's a fire under your butt. Like, no. Okay, so then that's when you switched, and then how did you come up with your FIRE number? And can you explain FIRE first, I guess?
Yeah. FIRE, financial independence, retire early. Some of the stuff in the FIRE movement I'm kind of like, about. Like, I'm not really into frugality. I don't really want to live like a super frugal life. I'm not really big into 401ks. I was for a little bit. But beyond that, it's really just an acronym for reaching financial independence at a ridiculously early age in life, which for me is, 28 to 30, that range, versus 65 or 70.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's amazing. So right now you're thinking about your passive, including your Airbnb, which is not passive, but I'm learning as we're trying to get our first Airbnb under contract.
Shout out to my wife that I think she's on there. She's the manager of it. She's the hero.
Oh man, that's brownie points for sure. Okay, and then how did you calculate your FIRE number?
Yeah. So that changed whenever we sold our house in the Austin area, and were able to capitalize on a pretty sizable amount. And then we were able to basically pay off all of our, I guess, liability debt, and then significantly lower our mortgage to less than $1,000. So from there, I just kind of, like, I like to play with little budgeting apps. Dave Ramsey's app, Every Dollar. I love it. I like kind of plugging and playing different numbers. And for me, like, my perfect FIRE number was like 5,000. Just pure passive.
Gotcha.
I'd say like pure burn rate on that. If I wasn't to buy anything extra, it's about $3,000 a month.
Okay, so that means you still had, like, including health insurance for your family, your mortgage.
There's $2,000 cushion in that. So.
And putting food on the table.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a good. That's like a 30, 5% cushion or something like that.
It's a good cushion, yeah. And my thing too was like, okay, if I can safely make $5,000 a month, and then I can flip a couple of houses, or I can, build a house and sell it. If I can do one build and sell a year or one flip a year, then I'm good.
And how many flips for the past year, or I guess last year, how many, because I know that you're actively flipping, like how many have you done?
We've sold, I think, 3 flips.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was last year? Or was it
Really, it was actually this year.
Wow, that was 3. Wait, so you've full cycled 3 flips in the last. Nice. Dude, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, if any of you have any questions, what's up, Austin? I see you. You want to jump on Zoom? You can jump on Zoom. Links in the bio. Okay, so then my next question, if you have any questions, also put them in the chat everywhere we are here. But was your wife always on board? Or how did you convince her to get on board?
No, she wasn't on board, and that's okay. We can talk about it.
Okay.
Initially, she was pretty repulsed by it.
Oh.
But now, I'm going to fast forward before I get into the backstory. She's super supportive, and I couldn't be more grateful for her support.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of guys that do not get that support, and that's huge, is getting your spouse's support. But she did property management from like the age, I think, of 19.
Wow.
All the way up until a year and a half ago when she quit. But she experienced like the terrible side of property management and real estate, and had people threatening to sue all the time, and she did not like real estate.
Yeah.
And so when I first read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, we're gonna get into real estate. She was like, no, we're not. And so, and to backtrack a little bit too, I came into my marriage, we got married in 2016, been together since 2014, with nothing but liabilities. Okay. I came in with debt and car payments and a negative net worth, and she's the one that came in with a positive net worth. And I'm this idiot that's saying we're going to buy real estate. So she had every reason to basically say, I don't want to do real estate until I could really prove myself. So it was after our first new construction deal that she got really supportive of it. And totally rightfully so. I think she commented what she said.
I know. Well, she said, Rebecca said, definitely not always on board. Yeah. Very accurate. For those on Zoom, that's confirmed.
Yeah. But she's totally supportive now.
So you had to do the proof of concept.
Sure.
And then...
As you should.
And then there was a coming together moment. What did that conversation look like? Like, what was that proof of concept that clicked?
Yeah, honestly, vulnerability, I could have done it so much better. It was more of like asking for forgiveness versus permission. Just like setting up deal closings and being like, oh, you got to be there to sign. And it wasn't very smart, going back on it. But, here we are. And she's super supportive now.
Okay.
But
okay.
Thanks for being so supportive, Rebecca.
Thinking on the family train, because that's something that I'm thinking about a lot, right? You have 2 small kids, 4 and 2, right?
4 and 1.
4 and 1. So what is, like, as you're thinking about, hey, I'm going to quit my W-2, like, what was that thought process? That's one, to convince your wife, right, as a spouse, but now as a father thinking about your kids, what factors went into your mind when you were thinking about doing this? Oh,
for me, it was all the more reason to leave my job. Because I'm gone 4 to 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've got to provide for them, and they rely on me. But I always know that if you have, Scott Trench writes about it in his book, Set for Life, if you have an adequate or significant amount of cash reserves, which for me is at least a year, to where if basically everything went wrong, you could still survive. Having that financial runway to really make the leap into something you really want to do. I knew that my worst case scenario was I could just go back and get a job and do what I was doing before. And my overhead was low. And once I got my expenses down, to me it wasn't that high, or I don't think it's that high of a risk given the amount of cash reserves we have.
Gotcha.
And our low cost of living.
You must be reading my next question that's on the screen.
I'm not.
Because I said, was there a monthly savings target before you made the decision? But you said you wanted at least a year of expenses.
Right.
Liquid.
monthly savings target, meaning like, was I saving a certain amount of money every month?
Or did you have, did you have a nest egg, like your rainy day fund set aside somewhere? Look, you basically just said that you wanted to have a year of that leeway.
Oh, we're going into numbers.
You don't have to tell me what the number is.
Yeah, we can do some numbers.
But you can just, like, if it was 6 months, if it's a year of whatever you think that you're.
Yeah, for me, it's like over 2 years right now.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, that's a solid cushion. If you didn't have to do anything basically for 2 years, and just pay all of your bills and put food on the table, that's.
Yeah. And I'd say my
awesome.
cash flow numbers are based on like actual reserves and expenses and all that too.
Yeah. No, that's dude, good on you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see here. I have a few questions here. Again, if there's anything on Instagram or on Zoom, well, Zoom's up here then, let us know. Okay, how about from Instagram? Do you have any three quick tips or words of wisdom on your real estate journey so far?
3 tips. Get started as soon as possible. Don't try to hit a home run deal right off the bat. If you buy a mediocre deal, even if it's like at market value, or even if you pay over market value, try not to pay too much over market value. But I think it's so much more important that you get started than like how good your deal is.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be building all those skills and you're building up all those muscles and that muscle memory to do your next deal. And that first deal is the hardest to do. I see so many people that try to just hit it out of the park on that first one. I know specifically out here in the Bay Area, like it's super hard to get started, right? If you want to get started, you've got to have a ton of money.
Yeah.
Or you've got to be really, really good at deal finding, which is why you see a lot of people out here going to places like Indiana, Ohio, and Texas, and places in the Midwest. And that's what I absolutely love about investing in more affordable places, is that you're building up those skill sets. So get started as quick as possible. The other thing is partner with somebody, because I like to compare it. We talked about it before. It's like swimming in the open ocean. Would you rather swim in the open ocean by yourself with sharks around, or would you rather swim with like 10 of your best friends, in that shark infested water? You're going to feel a lot better, but you're still going to get the experience.
No, that's getting started, I think, is everything. So I'm just laughing because my wife was trying to sneak away. I don't know if you saw in the corner of the video. Yeah, our first deal, I remember we almost backed out because it wasn't the perfect burr deal that you found on Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
And we were scared to lock away 20% down plus another $10,000 and getting it ready, rent ready.
Yeah.
And now thinking about it, even only 8 months later, obviously the crazy appreciation helps kind of correct anything. But I'm so glad that I did. Okay, how about, what is the biggest challenge so far in the last 3 years in real estate that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, I would say within my partnership, we bought, I thought it was really cool buying houses with no inspection.
Yeah.
And I'm now going back on that statement. I've said I don't buy houses with inspections. It's a bad idea. Get an inspection. And even if you're not going to use it as leverage in the offer process, just to at least know what you're walking into and know what kind of issues you can expect and what kind of lifespan is going to be left on things. Because just in the past 3 months on properties we've bought, we've had $30,000 on 2 different properties. That
$30,000 each?
$30,000 total in
Gotcha.
damages.
Okay. Wow.
These houses are 100 years old, but we could have caught a lot of that and just had preventative actions that would have actually prevented all of that stuff.
Gotcha.
So it's the easy $500, spend the money, get an inspection.
Okay. What are you most excited about going full-time into real estate, aside from being with your family?
Yeah.
I think that's, of course, the obvious to the wifey. But what else? It's uncharted territory.
It is uncharted territory. I'm excited about being able to travel.
Okay.
With my family.
Slow travel answer, man. You see that? That's how you win the brownie points.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
When we lived out here in San Jose for 3.5 years as a family, I felt like every vacation we took, if we went to Hawaii, right, it was like so quick. It was 4 or 5, maybe 6 days,
Mm-hmm.
and by the time you get back, you're exhausted. I'm looking forward to slow travel. If we want to go on a vacation or decide, hey, next week, do you want to go, I don't know, drive to Canada or Colorado and just spend time there for 2-3 weeks at a time. I'm looking forward to that. Gosh, I'm looking forward to focusing on just real estate, because it's been my day job, and then after work it's been nonstop doing real estate, and then taking calls during the day too,
Yeah.
even when I shouldn't.
Well, he's signed now, and TikTok. You guys didn't know. This guy's pretty big on TikTok now.
Oh no.
Okay, so there's a couple questions here on Zoom before I go back to some Instagram questions. This is from Jason. So how do you get into new construction?
There it is, the $1 million question.
Mm-hmm. He wants the secrets.
To get into new construction, the easiest way is to do it in a place where permitting is really easy.
Okay.
It's going to be in those cheaper, more affordable states, Texas, Indiana, Ohio, stuff like that. Another way to do it is to find a builder that's building spec houses. There's a lot of smaller builders that build maybe 1 or 2 houses a year, maybe 3, and that's just what they do.
How do you find those builders?
Yeah.
Because that sounds like you're finding, the general contractor who's just starting, almost, and you're finding the builder who's kind of doing that. So how did you find?
Well, for me, mine was kind of a different situation, just because I had some family roots in building.
Yeah.
And it's not that we really knew how to do it. I just knew that it was an option, and
Gotcha.
I knew you could build. And it's like we talked about on our last call. My dad had built one house, like in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I was ready to do my first property, I asked him, I said, hey, can I pay you to build a house for me? He's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And that's pretty much it. Like, you buy a house plan, you take it to like a local bank, and you tell them you want to build a house, and it's pretty easy. Yeah.
Okay. Jason, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it's a tough question, Jason. Sorry.
He had a follow up. Do you have any advice on constructing prefab or tiny houses? Rob built tiny house, Joshua Tree. I see what you're going there, Jason.
Yeah,
have you thought about building tiny houses?
Oh, totally. I love it. You need to get Justin Camera on your podcast.
Justin, I gotta write that as
He
my
went to our
notes.
mastermind. He's awesome.
And he's built tiny houses?
He'll gladly come on here. He does. I think he has like 5 or 6 tiny houses, but he buys them with Lightstream loans, personal loans, and pays them off really quickly.
What is a Lightstream loan?
It's just a personal loan that you get funded like same day. You can get like 2 $50,000 loans in a single day. It's stupid easy to get a Lightstream loan. It's awesome.
Okay, well now I know
So that's
who I
how
need
I
on
would
my,
fund it,
on my
Jason.
next one.
I'm guessing they're going to be pretty hard to fund. That's going to be the hardest part. So get a personal loan and try to pay it off really quickly.
Okay.
Yes, it will ding your credit. I know someone's going to ask that. So just pay it off quickly.
Jason, credit card, yes. If you can get on a credit card, Jason, then that's a lot of points, and then we can go on a real estate vacation,
Let's do it.
Okay, correction there. A lot of people in the fire community, as you know, kind of keep their hustles and business ventures low-key under the radar for fear of conflict.
Yeah.
Time spent. Is that a... Oh, were you pretty open? He was just asking how open were you with your boss, with your coworkers? How'd you navigate that relationship?
Yeah, I was super open. I'm now partnered with 2 coworkers that I work with, and I spread the gospel of real estate any chance I can.
Yeah.
But not really with my boss. No, I never really shared it with him.
Yeah. That's just...
But hey, it doesn't matter now because I'm done.
No, definitely. I mean, and that's something that, even for me, I think about right now, right? Is clearly right now it's lunchtime, and I'm interviewing it during lunch, but I want to make sure that I'm also on top of all of my project deliverables at work. And I think, the better the rapport and the more transparent you are just with anyone that you're working with any project, just helps alleviate any of the randomness. Like if I have to, as long as I'm getting my work done, and I work the last 2 Saturdays, even though I don't have to work Saturdays, there's a level of trust that I've established, and I'm sure that you've also established with your now previous company.
Almost.
Let's see here. The question, how will you finance deals now, came up on Instagram.
Yeah, see, I think that was one of my biggest limiting beliefs before I decided to quit my job, was that for some reason I wouldn't be able to finance deals. But if I look at the past like 6 or 7 deals I financed, I haven't even used any kind of Fannie Mae loan or been asked for any kind of pay stub. These are all commercial lenders. I've used hard money lenders.
Mm-hmm.
They're easier to close with. And then when it comes to, if you still want the terms, like obviously I love the 10% down vacation loan. It's an awesome loan. But one of the easiest ways to finance those is find a partner. And that's always going to be my answer. When you have any kind of issues financing, just find a partner. There's always a way around the financing part. And on top of that, I've been establishing real estate income for the past, 3 years now. So I now have that on my tax return. So by next year, I'll be able to qualify for those, federal loans again. So I only have, I think, 4
Gotcha.
of those federal Fannie Mae loans.
So that means you didn't even max out your, how many you can get, your 4, your 10, whatever you want to describe the number as, right?
I almost like commercial loans better for a lot of the just long-term rentals because they're easy. They're just easy to get. You send them the house and they give you a yes or no, and there's very little paperwork.
Yeah, nobody wants, especially when you start stacking properties, you don't want to gather your mortgage documents, your lease documents, your insurance for every single one. I mean, granted, that's like, I guess, the ultimate problem to have, but it's just annoying versus paying slightly bit more money to not have it ding your DTI. Although, granted, long-term rentals don't ding your DTI if you do it right.
That's the other thing, too, is if you're doing a lot of these commercial, if you're using commercial lenders, this is not showing up on your personal credit report, which is another one of the biggest reasons why I like using them over just a Fannie Mae kind of loan. Is that it just doesn't ding anything. Whereas every time I go get one, from a Bank of America or a Chase, it's going on my credit report, at least for a little bit until I can get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, the new inquiry is not too bad. And for those who are watching too, if you are taking on, personal guaranteeing your loans for your rental properties, and I'm not a lender, this is not financial advice, but what I've learned is that you can take 75% of your rental income that's guaranteed on a long-term lease and use that as income. So say, for example, if your mortgage is $600 a month, but then your rent is $1,200 a month, what is that, $900? So you have your plus $300, meaning you're giving yourself a raise and improving your DTI.
Yeah.
On a long-term rental. If you're doing short-term Airbnb income, you probably have to wait at least a year until you file your next tax returns for that to play into effect. Not a lender. Check with your lender.
Great answer.
What other questions we got here? 2 years, Jason says, for STR income.
That's good to know. I was actually wondering that.
But
the good thing, Jason, is that even if you're doing the short-term rentals on your name, a commercial lender is very likely going to take that into account right off the bat. They don't really care about the 2-year. So if you do a personal guarantee on a short-term rental, let's say like this year you closed on one in February, and then you wanted to get a deal through a commercial lender in November, as long as that portfolio lender or commercial lender just sees that you have income coming in from that property, for me, so far, that's all they really care about.
Yeah. Any last questions? I mean, my final wrap-up question is kind of just the fun stuff now. So aside from being closer to family and traveling more, on the real estate side, what's next? What projects are you going to take on now? How are things going to open up? What things are you looking for?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you I have it all planned out, but I really don't. The biggest part was having enough money and having the padding, right, to make that leap. And really, it's going to be me trying to figure out what really works best for me, and like what a good day looks like, a good routine. But we'll see. I really don't know the answer. As for next projects, I do want to take down another short-term rental this year. That's my goal. I've been looking at some areas. I like the Minnesota area. some like lake houses up there. The numbers are awesome, and nobody talks about it.
I mean, there are so many places that people travel to. I mean, I think I told you about the Ark.
Yes, I talked to someone about it too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Did you look it up? What did you think about it?
It's awesome.
For those on Zoom, I'm gonna, for those who are on Zoom, they'll get to see this. For those who are on Instagram,
bonus information right here.
This is the bonus. Yeah, here, let me use Safari. Let me not show you what I'm looking at though, so you don't also bid on the property that I'm currently looking at. But let's see here.
Talk about those annual numbers. Compare it to like Joshua Tree and Smoky Mountain.
So this was a pro tip that I got from just networking with other real estate agents and telling them, and finding short-term property managers or short-term rental property managers. But this is the Ark Encounter in Williamstown, Kentucky. This is a life-size recreation of Noah's Ark. There's a small zoo there. Kids are free. Joshua Tree gets 2 million visitors a year. The Ark Encounter gets 1.2 million visitors a year. And you can buy a new construction for like 200 grand. So that means you can buy a burr for like 100 grand or less. And then your average nightly rate is anywhere between 150 and 200 with like a 65-70% occupancy. You will have some seasonality just because, it is a kids attraction. So you're like late spring, fall will probably be like the highest peak travel. Holidays are good, obviously, because of the religious tie, right? So everything around November, December for Christmas is awesome. I just think it's an interesting play. But yeah, I think there's so many different short-term rental markets that are untapped.
Yeah. And you can really play with that variable too, right? The cooler you can make the space, you can almost like create your own comps in an area. If you can, like even in an area like the town I grew up in, I still think there's a market for short-term rentals. And if you can create like a staycation kind of place, that's something, there's a hot tub, there's a pool or whatever there is, just make it a really cool space where people want to come.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is the one thing for me being, I guess on the marketing and slightly creative side of things sometimes. Long-term rentals are boring to the fact that you're essentially just making a really safe place to live.
Yeah.
And which is important, but you don't need to, put the nice tile and you don't have to design it up. You shouldn't design it up because you probably end up losing money. But on a short-term rental, I was like, man, I could build beds shaped as arcs.
Yeah. That
the kids could stay in, and then that would be cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm sure there's like a lake nearby too that you could even tie that into as well.
Dude, there is a lake house. There's actually a lake that's there.
Is it?
There was a lake house I was looking at earlier today. I'll show you after the call. It's secrets.
See, we just get giddy about real estate. That's how you know you like it.
I think it's fun because this now allows you to like travel and visit places.
Exactly.
That are almost tax write-offs because you're running them as businesses.
Every time you go, you're always working on your Airbnb.
Of course. I mean, you have to check on it.
No, really, like you do some work. Even if you just do a little bit of work. We blocked off, I think, 10 days on our Airbnb in September. And it's really like the first time I'm going to get to use it. My wife's used it for a couple of weeks so far. But I'm looking forward to it, like the mileage there. Like we actually have to go and get some work done, but we also are going to actually get to use our place and, build family memories there. And the return is so much better than a rental. Like you buy a rental and you never really think about it again until you need a new tenant. Mm-hmm. But short-term rentals, you can actually go play in them.
Yeah.
It's like grown-up toys.
Yeah. And if you can get them in, and you partner, and you get them in different markets, then essentially you're having masterminds and meetups and all these places that are just becoming... You're not spending liabilities on vacations anymore. Instead, it's an educational experience.
Yeah, and there's that loophole where you can rent it to yourself for 2 weeks a year, too. Tax-free.
Yeah, that's a follow-up episode now. We gotta do like a full like tax episode.
Oh, we should have Irish on for the taxes.
I know. She at least is on Instagram right now. Well, all right, guys. If you have any last questions,
I did see Vinci has a question on the health insurance, which I can tackle. That's the big question for people.
Shoot it. Do it, man.
Yeah. So Vinci, since you're a fire person, which I can respect that. I am.
What was his question
So
again?
Vinci's question was for the everybody that can't see it is what am I going to do for health insurance, which is a very very valid question. I'm going to buy health insurance. There's a plan. It's similar to, gosh, one of the big plan like Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $800 a month.
For your family plan?
Yeah. So it's it's not cheap, but it's not like super expensive. I always say to people that like if that's your biggest fear, just make more money. Go make more money. Buy a deal to pay for your insurance.
That it was, yeah, I did listen to another business, it was a CrossFit business podcast a long time ago who was like, yeah, I don't budget for my business. I just make more money. Just
Yeah.
how can I make more money? And then I don't have to worry about budgeting. And I was like, yes, that's obviously abundance mindset.
Right.
Jason also seconds, yes, make more money.
I just see so many people that will work a job for like 40 plus years just because of the health insurance question. And if that's the only thing you're worried about, I mean, there's one short-term rental would literally take care of that forever. And you get to stay in a short-term rental, 2 to 4 weeks a year.
I mean, that is crazy, right? So it's like, okay, just maybe the closing thought, right? And I'm sure that you now seeing the actuals of your short-term rental, and I know that Vinci also talked about this in his last, couple Instagram posts. How much are you grossing on your first short-term rental, and how much are you netting?
Yeah. So we're obviously, it's a beach house, so we are on peak season, and we're definitely starting to taper down. However, I'm basing my numbers really on like AirDNA and their occupancy standards. So we've done really, really well. For me, it's like if we can hit, I think 42,000 a year, which
That's gross.
That's gross.
Okay.
Gross income. That would allow me to pull $1,000 a month cash flow. And so we've been on since really June 1st, the end of May. So June, July, August, now, so that's really 3.5 months. We've already hit $26,000.
Wow.
So even if I can just, book weekends, which that's not going to be very hard to do, to book a good amount of weekends. I don't need a lot of occupancy, and then I'll get spring break, get that crowd, and summer starts a little earlier in Texas because it gets warmer. So I don't see any issue with hitting that number. If I do, then I do. I'll make more money somewhere else.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean,
it's not the end of the world.
Obviously, it's all market dependent, depending on how much you're actually buying a property for and your expenses and managing, what that actual real cash flow number is. But, for an individual person, you're like 1 or 2 short-term rentals from being able to not be dependent on a job.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, obviously, right? But just roughly speaking, like it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. And if you're in a job that you don't like, I would say step 1, start getting rid of expenses that are just silly. If you have debt that you don't really like, get rid of that. And then your cost of living starts to really go down. And if you really hate your job, find somewhere really affordable to live. And then your number gets that much smaller. And the other thing I like to think about too, I know we're kind of wrapping things up, but I have yet to see anyone quit their job that was a real estate investor that loved real estate investing, that quit their job to go on and make less money. Maybe the first year, but everyone that I've seen so far that's done it, they all say the same thing. Dude, you've got to make the leap. It's scary, but once you do, they're all doing bigger and better things because they can really commit to that.
Yeah.
Full time. And it's scary because your caveman brain, lizard brain, whatever you want to call it, makes you want to be really safe and make those safe plays. But I think we're made to live an adventurous life.
Get it. I love it. Okay, so then my last wrapping up question for you is, for those who are just getting started in real estate right now and want to eventually make the leap into FIRE, let's cut expenses. What else is the action items for them?
Yeah. I actually don't think passive income is as important as people make it out to be. I think you can go on to make passive income later, but finding a way to create active income within real estate, whether that's flipping, building or selling, wholesaling, that's the quickest way to get out of what your current job is if you don't like your job and if you like real estate. If you don't care that much about real estate, just consistently, buy some passive income creating properties. And I don't see why anybody couldn't be financially free in 10 years if you buy 1 or 2 properties a year.
Well, there you go. He's made it happen. He gave you the blueprints. If you have any questions, Jess, where can people find you?
Instagram, Investor Jess.
Dang, he went Instagram first. You didn't even plug TikTok at all.
No TikTok.
Wink.
Same thing there. Nobody on here is on TikTok.
Well, all right, Jess. Thank you so much for being my first repeat guest.
Yeah, man.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. Follow him along on his now new FIRE journey. Well, I guess he's, made that first step. Now the next step is to buy a jet, right? I think that's how, Beardy Brandon always says it.
Grant Cardone, man. 10X, baby. Gotta buy a jet.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in either on Instagram or on Zoom. If you have someone else that you think I should interview, let me know. Connect them to me. I'd love to just make these chats happen more often and an actual, at a frequent cadence, too.
Your YouTube channel? What's the name?
It's just my name. It's my Instagram name. So it's just Joshua_Baldovino. For some reason, I go by Josh, but then I just like seeing the UWA written down. I don't know.
It's very fancy.
I know, it makes it, so bougie like that, I guess.
Yeah, it's very bougie.
Well, thank you guys, and we will catch you guys on the next one. See you later.